How you doing, everybody? It's coffee with Blake. Delicious. I hope you're doing well. Hmm. We are diving right in today with some really nice Final Fantasy cards. So let's just get into these. So what we've done is we've taken three of the new Final Fantasy cards and really crafted a nice deck around it. And we've focused on Marchesa, Dealer of Death. And what Marchesa loves is she loves things to be targeted. If we target things in any way, our opponent's things specifically, we can pay one generic mana, and then we can look at the top two cards of our library. We can put one of them into our hand, and then the other one into our graveyard. So very cool, right? A Summon Primal Odin is a really cool reanimate target. It's kind of a bomb in that nature where you simply, reanimate this. You get to destroy a target creature. On chapter 2, you can simply like take out an opponent. And this deck actually does kind of clear the way a lot. We really have like a lot of single target removal. And just we're in those colors, we're just going to kill everything. So this card actually has more of a chance to hit than not. And then it has a little bit value at the end. Draw 2 cards. Each player loses 2 life. So that's really nice. So really, really cool target. And really castable in that manner too. So 6 mana is not too bad. Kefka is just an absolute bomb from Final Fantasy. These cards are just so good. They really shook up the format for me. And every time I play against a Kefka, I'm like, why does it get so much value? Like, simply when it enters, it just draws a bunch of cards. And then when it attacks, it does a similar nature where it's just drawing like 3 cards on each instance, at least 2, right? And even in the 1-1 format, it's just drawing tons of cards. And then it just continues to draw more. So as it attacks, I've been very impressed with Kefka. I feel that I think it's like at a $3, $4 range. So if you could probably pick a couple of those up, I don't think you'll be too sad about that. Surprised you don't see more of Kefka in Standard. It's just really strong. And similarly, Sephiroth is just, yeah, these cards are all in Standard. Like, still, obviously, the Airbender set just came out, so we'll see. We'll see who like the top dog is. There's a really nasty Cub in the new Avatar set, but I mean, obviously, Final Fantasy is really good. These aristocrat effects are going to be so cool for your Marchesa Dealer Death deck. Just the fact that you'll be able to target opponents as creature dies on your opponent's turn and your turn. It's just a lot of value. It stacks up, and it's just a really good, like, drainer in general. And if a lot of things are going to die, what Marchesa does naturally with all the removal, then more creatures are going to die. You're going to have a better chance to flip this over. So I'll do my best to flip this over for you real quick. Check it out. And the criteria for this one is, let's see here. Whenever another creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. So there's the targeting. If this is the 4th time this ability has resolved this turn, transform Sephiroth. And then you get this nice little creature here. As this creature transforms into Sephiroth, One Winged Angel, you get an emblem. Whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. So, yeah. So that's the emblem. So it's still targeting a single opponent, right? Whenever Sephiroth attacks, you may sacrifice any number of other creatures if you do draw that many cards. So there's that. So it's always going to be targeting, like, so that's really nice. And then you get to draw cards as you sacrifice creatures as well. So really interesting card in general, and we definitely like that one. Let me just leave that one back up. Okay, and now we've come to our beautiful commander, Marchesa, the Dealer of Death. It is in Grixis colors, so we get those beautiful blue, black, and red. You even see we get access to a card like Kefka, so we're just like living our best life right now. And again, like I said, committing a crime is targeting opponents, anything they control, and/or cards in their graveyards. It's a crime. Each time you do this, you get to pay 1. And if you do, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them to your hand, the other into your graveyard. Fantastic. So we definitely have like a lot of good graveyard synergies. The cards I've kind of settled on for our crime homies are going to be Magda the Horde Master, just a nice 2-drop. Each time we commit a crime, we're gonna once a turn we can create a tap treasure token. If we have 3 treasure tokens, we can sacrifice those and create a dragon scorpion with haste. Beautiful. So obviously the ramp is just really nice. Getting those treasures, that acceleration is always welcome. And we'll be definitely targeting a lot, have a lot of chances to trigger Magda for sure. Gisa is a card actually that I'm going to be building, and I actually have built it. I think this one is actually like probably more interesting than Marchesa overall in power level. I just feel like it's just kind of very explosive and has like a lot of opportunities to put a lot of power to the board really fast. So Gisa, I was really like kind of really pleasantly surprised about, and I think we did build a deck that's like around $106. So perhaps we can also get that in. We're going to be doing the giveaway, so make sure you do comment for the 625 and the 750. So we're doing some deck giveaways. We're slowly climbing. We haven't put in as much content out, so these kind of really matter. These kind of deck techs. So make sure you like and subscribe and share with your friends. Let them know if they comment on this video, they'll be eligible for a $110 or so Omnath, the Locus of All deck, and then a Taeko deck, which is $250 for the 750 subs. You just simply have to comment so I can track your comments, and we'll spin a wheel for that very soon. But Gisa is also just one of those really sweet, and I really think like that's the way for the channel too, is just like build these like $100 commander decks and simply give them away, because they really don't take too much like effort, and they're just good. Like I will be like kind of your guide in that manner, where I can kind of assist you in like having fun for Magic with powerful commanders when you don't have to break your bank. So this would be the one. This is a wonderful commander. It's simply the thing about these two that I featured is you have to you set off the crimes on separate turns because they only go once a turn. But this one will create zombies that would menace. It gives a buff to your zombies. It's just a really nasty creature in general. Really puts a lot of power to the board really fast. The card for this is going to be like the Hex Parasite, which is a really nice card. I opted for just some single instances. I wanted to try some single instances of crime rather than like one that I can just continually pay life into. But I do think that for the Gisa, it would be very nice for like a Hex Parasite. So check that card out. You're just going to love that in a card like Gisa. Here's Blood Artist. And so this is kind of the route I went. I wanted to do like aristocrat type effects to set off Marchesa. I really think that those are very consistent. Creatures are simply dying all the time. Not only is this just a good draining option for a multiplayer format, but you're going to get those crimes set off on your opponent's turns, like for the Gisa and those Magda creatures. And in addition, you're just going to get you're not going to have to invest any mana except when you initially cast these and they enter. So they kind of sit there and they just kind of accrue crimes as they target opponents, right, for that life loss as creatures die. So really strong stuff. Really, you're going to love this portion about the deck. Vengeful Blood Witch also similarly just targets a single opponent as creatures die. Very redundant effect of the Blood Artist. And then you have like a big bomb, like a Vein Ripper here, which is a 6/5. Whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So just really, really nasty stuff. So it kind of ups the ante for creatures dying, but you still get to do that single target to set off your crimes. This is probably the best single mana option that you have for the deck is the Tiny Bones Joins Up. Simply put, it's an all-star for your crime decks. It's actually a perfect card. The design is so satisfying here. You'll just simply cast one of your legendaries such as Marchesa. Hopefully have like another mana available. Maybe play her on like turn 4, or you had like maybe some acceleration with the Mana Rock. So maybe on turn 3 and you still have a mana open, you can simply have a Tiny Bones Joins Up on the battlefield and have Marchesa, and then you're targeting. You don't have to invest any mana. You just had to have Marchesa enter the battlefield, and then you're simply targeting an opponent for them to mill a card and lose a life, and then you're going to pay 1 and you're going to get that value immediately. These cards are like storing cards. Like you're kind of just storing them up. They have a nice purpose where this one will target your opponents initially to discard. You can even discard yourself if you wanted to, like if you had like a sweet reanimate card. If you wanted to do something like that, you could do that. It's just a really good synergy for our colors and has a lot of value. So yeah, you like the discard on the way coming in, and then you get those targets later on with your legendaries as they enter. Here's Ghost Vacuum. Ghost Vacuum. So this is like the one I was mentioning. The two, it's similar to Tiny Bones. Hex Parasite would actually be pretty cool here, but we can try it like this. I'm always up for trying like different cards, and I think a Ghost Vacuum would be cool, where you can simply exile a card without paying any mana. By the tapping ability this has, it's cheap artifact. You get to target something, which is like maybe something bad or nasty in their graveyard. You can even pay into that 6 and have all those creatures that you've exiled with Ghost Vacuum enter as 1/1, so you get those nice enter the battlefield triggers and whatever else the abilities they had. They'll be 1/1, so they'll be a little bit weaker, but still, they're probably going to be pretty good, right? So, really cool card. I like the Ghost Vacuum. These cards are just absolutely like just insane. So, a deadly Rollick is these cards just get even more valuable, and it shows you the power level of this card. Marchesa coming down, and then you're simply like free casting these removal spells and getting more value off of them because you're going to have that mana available. That's what you have to keep in mind is you want to keep your investment down. You want cards that are already on the battlefield to kind of do the crime so you don't have to invest any more mana, like, the same turn that maybe she comes down. Or you want them to be very cheap so that you have the mana available to pay into those, the value when you do actually target something. So these are very good. Deadly Rollick. If you control a commander, you may cast a spell without paying its mana cost. Exile target creature. Fierce Guardianship. If you control a commander, you may cast a spell without paying its mana cost. Counter target non-creature spell. And Deflect and Swap. To control a commander, you may cast a spell without paying its mana cost. But you can, if you don't have your commander out, you can still cast it for the same, mana cost it has. You may choose new targets for target spell or ability, so all these spells target. Another cool spell, which doesn't really require any mana investment. If you control a swamp, it will cost you life, but you'll be able to destroy a target non-black creature with Snuff Out. Just absolutely fantastic. Then you have the elementals. So your elementals are also going to be just supreme in this deck, where you have these beautiful cards that you can just simply exile a card of the similar color or the same color of your hand, and then we'll be able to cast these particular cards. I believe it is a cast. It's an evoke. So I don't know if that's actually cast. I don't think it is a cast, but so for instance, you just have to have another red card in your hand. You exile that red card, and then Fury comes onto the battlefield and does its enter the battlefield trigger, which will be targeting, right? It will be targeting, and so you get those those really nice, no mana cost associated type of cards, and you get a crime, and they're just absolutely fantastic. So they're just very similar to all these other ones, and they just give you a chance to get into more value, which we want to do in Marchesa. Grief is going to do this as well. It's actually get into somebody's hand. And again, what's nice about these elementals is they just go into your graveyard. So they get sacrificed after they've been evoked. So just really nice stuff. It's not like they exile themselves. You actually get a chance to get more value of them. Like if you have like a rebirth effect, or you have reanimate type effects, so you can just kind of get like even more. It's not like they exile themselves. They just exile that card to initially be evoked. And that, like I said, that evoke cost does not cost you anything. So amazing here. Like the subtlety, we'll just read through this one in particular. It is a 4 mana flash flying. When subtlety enters the battlefield, choose up to one target creature spell or planeswalker spell. Its owner puts it on the top or bottom of their library. Or you can simply just evoke this. So basically have it enter the battlefield, and then be sacrificed after it's entered the battlefield trigger takes place. So really interesting card. And just the requisite again, exile a blue card from your hand. Here's the rebirth effects that I was talking about. They refer to this as scam in like the modern format, where grief was, obviously very strong in that manner, where you could just exile a black card from your hand and have grief enter, and as it is triggering, and it is still like going through that into the battlefield trigger, you would hold priority, and then you would target it with your Malika rebirth. And that would mean that you would get into your opponent's hand with Grief upon invoking it, and then it would come simply right back on the battlefield after it was sacrificed, and it would be tapped in that way. But then you'd be looking right back at your opponent's hand and taking another card that's of your choice, and you'd have a 3/2 Menacer. So this card is really strong, and especially for those elementals. So really cool little combo there. You're just also going to really love a card such as Forbidden Orchard. So Forbidden Orchard is really nice in this deck, as you will simply be able to target an opponent as you tap this for mana and actually give them a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token. But what's really cool is that you are targeting them. It says target opponent creates a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token. So, you're fixing your mana, you're setting a crime, you're giving them a 1/1, but you'll probably use removal to like set off even more crimes, and the land itself sets off the crime. So once again, these things don't really take a lot of mana, and they actually should not really take too much mana, like in general, to set up. Especially this is just a land, so really nice stuff. You can really imagine that you're going to get a lot of value off of Marchesa with these really cheap targeting spells that are just very efficient. So here's Barrow Down's Bajuka Bog, and this one's another nice one where it comes on the battlefield. It's going to remove a target player's graveyard, and then you can simply add black after that. Here's Tiny Bones. This is just repeatable value. So you want to have like repeatable ways to get into your crimes. Tiny Bones is a nice 1/1 Death Toucher, and each time it connects with your opponent, you can get into their graveyard and cast spells using mana of any mana of any type. It's really nice, and that actually would that will actually be targeting. So yeah, you may cast target non-land permanent card from that player's graveyard. And you don't have to, you can decline to cast it. I mean, you're just targeting in general. So Tiny Bones is really cool. Here's Iridescent Vine Lasher, and this is a really nice sneaky one. I actually like to do the Offspring on this one, like for 3, and then you have 2 Vine Slashers, and then you have like a land coming in, and you're doing like 2 damage to somebody's face. And also you're just creating crimes just basically by playing lands. It's wonderful. Ember of Bones is like that one. You kind of maybe have to play with it a couple times, but especially if for this purpose, we're not going to be really wanting to target our graveyard. Most of the time, right? You want to target your opponent's stuff. So at the beginning of combat on your turn, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. We're going to, for crime, you have to target your opponent. So focus on that. You're really going to want to like focus on hitting your opponent's stuff, making sure you're targeting their graveyard, and making sure you trigger your Marchesa. And that's really kind of the point of it. And this is just continual targeting every combat. So lots of value. I mean, just, you don't have to pay mana to target it, other than, like I said, its initial two costs of cast. It just costs 2 mana here. Bowmasters similarly is just going to be insane because it's Bowmasters, and just by casting this card, you're already targeting somebody with that, a mass orc, and deal 1 damage to any target type of deal. So really kind of crazy. And then as they draw more cards, you're just creating more crimes. If they draw additional cards, you're doing more damage. You're drawing as they draw more cards, you'll deal more damage and you'll set off more crimes. So it's really, really, really good for us. Here's Generous Plunderer, and you're just gonna also similarly love this card. This thing will actually just kill opponents, like in some instances. Like if they have too many artifacts, this thing will simply attack them and deal damage to defending player equal to the number of artifacts they control. It's really nice. So what's cool is you get kind of politic around. You'd be like, hey, like, you want a treasure? You want to leave me alone for a little bit? And yeah, that sounds like a good deal. And we're going to create treasures ourselves. So it does an act of targeting. It'll ramp us. It'll have that really cool effect when it's swinging in and dealing damage to an opponent. It's really nice. Here's Palantir. Once again, more repeatable ways to get into crime. And I think I built this deck, I think, originally like to just try and jam as many like, removal spells like Infernal Grasp and, all of these, all the black removal spells I could, like even Terminate. And I was like, I kind of want more repeatable value. I love the Palantir. It actually probably just kills more opponents than not. This card just sometimes will just do 18 damage to somebody out of nowhere. And it's like, oh, wow, that's only 3 mana. It's like, you better let me draw, or you're going to probably take a lot of damage. And it targets, right? So you get to do the targeting thing for the crime. I've been very impressed with the Volatile Stormdrake as well. Sure, it can give your opponent a pretty nice attacker, but you can target it later on. You can remove it. You know, it does have hexproof from activated and trigger abilities, but not sorceries and instants. And you're simply just going to be able to take a control of a 4-drop, you know, for a 2-mana investment. It's just really nice. And that's a crime. These are all crimes. You're going to love it. Here's Murderous Rider. And this one also will just hit planeswalkers. I think it's really important to hit planeswalkers, especially in a 1-1 format. There's lots of planeswalkers. So, you know, in EDH too, I think that option to hit planeswalkers is actually really big. So target creature or planeswalker here for the instant side, and then you get a creature. So I like that. I like that how you have the option of like having a little additional value, right? Here's our reanimate spells. These ones are really nice because they'll simply resurrect a creature from our graveyard or any graveyard, and we'll just have to pay life, for instance, and reanimate. What's nice is that it actually, if you do it to your opponents, it's a crime. So a card like Reanimate, Dance of the Dead, and Animate Dead are all really efficient resurrection spells that will also target your opponent's graveyards and your own. So just really sweet stuff. And they're just like no-brainers here. They're just probably the most powerful cards. Here's Incarnation Technique. And this is one of the more powerful resurrection spells. I just like just to have another really strong one because we do a lot of graveyard stuff. We play like Mizzet's Mastery to kind of put the deck over the top. So this is just a really great card where you're just going to get some nice selection from creatures, and we have some really nice top end. So how this card works is that you'll demonstrate. So you'll want to demonstrate. You'll give an opponent the ability to mill 5 cards and then return a creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield. But you'll do it twice, which is really nice value. And it's any card from your graveyard, not just the cards you milled from. One of my favorites for Marchesa is the Tyrant's Familiar, just because if you have her on the battlefield, you're swinging with a 7/7, and you're once again just targeting a creature. And you know, after that one-time investment, you're just like, you know, keeping swinging. You're getting more repeatable targeting. You're taking out other commanders. It's just really strong for us. Hullbreaker Horror. Similarly, you get like a double trigger with Marchesa because you're going to be targeting with your instants or sorceries, and the Hullbreaker itself is going to be targeting and committing crimes as well as you cast those spells. So just an insane amount of value with a Hullbreaker Horror. What a really awesome crab, you know, beautiful thing. Kraken Horror. Archon of Cruelty, similarly, just a nasty value. Some nice enter the battlefield value here. It targets in the best way, right? You get to, you know, really isolate an opponent and kind of really put the hammer on. Now we get to like the really sweet removal, right? So we still do have like that really nice removal suite. You'll just love like a card like Dismember where you just pay some life and a single generic mana to give a creature 5/5 -5/-5 until end of turn. Beautiful. Fatal Push, just a really efficient you know, removal spell for creatures with mana 5 or less as, you know, permanents leave the battlefield. You know, even like such as treasures, we can just basically Fatal Push and, you know, do more, a lot more than just, you know, what is usually expected of a 1-mana spell. You know, Rapid Hybridization, just really crazy. Cool card as well, just a single mana. And, you know, we kind of keep the mana cost low. This is in mind of the Marchesa, so you can imagine if we commit more crimes as we do so, we're going to have to pay that generic mana. So if we want to do like, you know, 2 of these instances of triggering Marchesa and actually getting the value from her, we need to keep our mana value of our spells quite low and efficient. So we really had to kind of like deep dive in, kind of see what was working for us. Wash Away is perfect. We'll hit commanders from the command zone. Swan Song will hit those instants or sorceries or enchantments. Beautiful. Offer You Can't Refuse, just a game-winning card, as we'll just hit those non-creature spells. Just love to see it. All 1 mana. Vandal Blast can be paid for that 1 mana, so you might use it like that, or you might just overload it and hit all your opponent's artifacts. Psycho Rift for that, returning a target opponent permanent to its owner's hand, or just overloading it to return all of our opponent's permanents to their hand. Bitter Triumph really nice one where you have the option to discard at instant speed. That's good for our reanimation targets, and it will hit creatures or planeswalker, or you can just simply lose 3 life as a requisite for casting it. Baleful Mastery, that one's definitely grown on me too. Just basically give a card to your opponent. You can exile a creature or planeswalker for 2 mana. And I think that's how we're usually going to use this for the 2 mana option. Drown in the Lock, just like a basically game-winning card. Your opponents aren't really going to be expecting it, but you have this like basically multiple modality where you can counter a spell based on the amount of cards in an opponent's target opponent's graveyard, or destroy a creature based on the number of cards in their graveyard. So really cool card. Love to see it Drown in the Lock. Very multifaceted. So these are like our multifaceted card, like Prismari Command. You can see how many modes we have. Just like a gangbuster in modes here. Just does lots of damage, or does some damage to a thing. Can draw and discard cards. We can create a treasure and or destroy a target artifact. We can do 2 of those options at instant speed. Sink into Stupor, which is just like another land that you can just simply like target a spell or a non-land permanent and just pop it right back to someone's hand. You just love it. Here's Hydra Mauling. We do play this card. It's just very effective. Like, increases our chances for more targeting and more crime. Just a land option or a removal based option for a creature. Fel the Profane is absolutely busted here. Yeah, that can even come in on tap for paying 3 life. So it's just ridiculous, and it can hit creatures and planeswalkers. Sublime Epiphany. So these are kind of like the haymakers. Thought it was really nice to kind of get like a Mizzet Mastery kind of option here and really kind of go crazy, because we build the graveyard so nicely with Marchesa to have not only creatures, but also instants and sorceries that are haymakers and really kind of do the work here. So yeah, this is just like a really nice option. It can just be a really nice counter spell / hitting like triggered abilities. It can also just be used to make copies of some of the creatures that we might have already on the battlefield, returning some non-land permanents, drawing cards. It's just a really cool, multifaceted spell. River's Rebuke as kind of one of those Cyclonic Rift type of effects, but just for a single target opponent. So kind of a nasty one for an opponent, but still really effective. And all these will create crimes. This one is really nice. It can do a -3/-3 for the sorcery side, and then it will start targeting our opponent's graveyards, which is really nice. It could be our graveyard too, but it can be our opponent's, and that will actually trigger more crimes if you do cast it for the 7-mana enchantment side. And that's the beginning of each upkeep, or our upkeep. Here's Toxic D, just to like kind of act as crowd control for our colors. Mizzet's Mastery, just to kind of get into our graveyard and get value. We could overload it and cast all the instant sorceries in our graveyard at once, or just target one of our instant sorceries in our graveyard and kind of go to town in that way. Here's Expressive Iteration for some nice value. Dig Through Time to also delve into our graveyard and get some more value. I like that a lot. And basically, here's our Rampage. So Dark Ritual, Ragavan, Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Felwar Stone, Talisman of Dominance, Talisman of Creativity, Black Market Connections, and Fable. And then from there, we play about 38 lands. So overall, just like a really solid deck. I just like had a really good time. So let me just shuffle through it and kind of show it to you one last time. All right, and this was Marchesa, Dealer of Death, and beautiful Grixis Commander. New Final Fantasy cards were just absolutely insane for this. They're just so good, and just give another dimension to it overall. Just kind of like love the aristocrat kind of presence for this deck, and I'm excited to try this iteration out. This deck was kind of interesting. I built this commander a while ago, and I didn't really think it was going anywhere. And then like months later, I was like, oh my god, it had like thousands of views, and I was like, whoa, like it really kind of like caught up like really fast. It was kind of a sleeper, and then maybe more people got into it as time went on. But I adore it. I really adore this commander, and I kind of got all the tools finally to like really kind of give it a shot and see how far I could take this card. These cards are kind of high power level, so I don't know exactly where I want to take this deck, and but I'm sure it could kind of go into a different type of format, close to CEDH, maybe not as good, but probably just right on the edge. All right, so hope you guys have a great day. See you later.